And that's probably the best thing, because Howie will start watching you then to see that you are improving, and then you move up. Like, the first step is to do a pro spot on a weekend, and then next thing is to get a full weekend, and after that it's probably to go on the road. And you need at least 15 minutes to go on the road. You start off as a split middle, and it doesn't pay great, but it gives you some experience. And just keep writing at that point and having fun, and really knowing what's fun, you know, and knowing what's funny. And be funny. That's really all it is. When you go on stage, be the best you can be. Make sure that you're the strongest link on the show. That's the way I've always tried to be every time I've gone on stage. And sometimes I am, and sometimes I'm not. You know, it happens.
What?
Does everyone need to use the mic? You guys are really going to enjoy doing that. Like, that's trying to use this to get into acting, because some people do.
Like comedy. Comedy.
Anything about government people.
Well, yeah, I guess but that's the thing I love about comedy. The best part about it, it's never a routine, man. It's not, you don't wake up at 9, go to work. You wake up at like whenever you need to go to the show. And I still have a part-time job, but I mean, other than that, like, I'm going to Ajax tomorrow, and I'll be performing here next week. So I've gone to places I never would have gone to without ever getting into comedy. So it's probably one of the things I love most about it. People you meet, but it's a bit of a grind. But the thing is, I love it. I love living out of a suitcase, and I love performing for as many people as I can, going like to Manchester, England, or the Dominican Republic to do it. It's a pretty cool thing.
Jen has a question.
Ask any question you want. I can't see you guys, so just like interrupt me. It's all good.
Okay, can you use the mic, because I have to be in the back office. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure. I just didn't want to be overbearing, but yeah.
No, be overbearing. That's your job. You've earned it. Thank you.
What's your question?
It's Mark. Could you start over, because I was outside smoking while you were. Yeah, I have. I have a question for you. What do you find your best process is for creating a new joke? Is it happenstance? Is it
Sometimes, yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes it is like that. Sometimes it's just like looking at it and just like basically yelling at it, and then you find the funny in it. Believe it or not, sometimes just in emotion, it seems like that's when you get creative, the most creative. It's like when you start yelling at something, like I sometimes, like a lot of my stuff isn't really angry, but like I'll get angry writing it, and in that, like I'll find something sarcastic or funny, and just sort of like take the piece and just dissect it as much as you can.
Okay. Cool, thank you.
What about, I have a question. You said your best 6 minutes and then hold on to that. What about the fact that sometimes jokes will work really well at one crowd, and then something happens, and then it just doesn't work well, like the difference between Jeff's and Absolute. It doesn't work well at Absolute, but I end up dropping it, doing something totally different, and I kind of wish I'd hung on to it. Maybe it was just an off night.
Well, it's sort of the rule of 3, and if it doesn't work 3 times, shelf it. Never throw anything away, because you might just lost what you thought was funny in it, but you might find it again later. So just put it aside if it's not working. Basically, if you want to work up to like 6 rock solid, you know, that you can showcase for Just for Laughs, you can open a pro show, and then from there that's when you can get creative, and that's when you can bring that stuff back and look at it again. But basically, like, the 6 minutes is key. It's the biggest key when you're first starting out. And come down and watch pro shows. You guys get in for free because you've done it a little while. Howie knows you're not just doing it for whatever. You actually want to learn something out of this. Come and watch the pros. You want to walk and talk like a duck, you got to see a fucking duck. That's what I was taught when I was Some people, I mean, they have a quick learning curve.
Do you have some clean underpants back there for me? Jesus, Murphy!
They're doing a full weekend. And then there's other guys, you know, like I've watched, when I first started, there's one guy, Sean Patrick, like, he was doing it for about 5 years when I started. Russell knows him. And he wasn't great. He was, very polite. It was kind of horrible to watch. It was what we call a smoke break act. Like on a Wednesday, when you know somebody's going to bomb, you just, it's time for a cigarette. So that's what we would do. And then one night, he came down on an amateur night, didn't change a lot of shit up, but just destroyed. And then maintained a really high level of performance after that. And it just happened, he just clicked. It was really neat to see. Like, you don't see it a lot, you know? And I think a lot of guys, especially now, sort of get it. And they're coming into comedy, understanding it a little better than back when I first started, like 18 years ago. It was still, you know, I just missed the boom here, and it was just one of those things. But like, I got into it because I love being funny, and like, I just like making people laugh.
What was the difference? You said, was it Sean, was his name?
Yeah.
He basically had the same material?
Yeah.
So what happened? He just was confident delivering?
Confidence or something, it just clicked. It's the best way to describe it. I think, like you guys have heard that before. It just clicked, and he was like the textbook definition of it, for sure.
When you, did you find that you, in your opinion, were you funny pretty much right from the start? Did it take you a while to...
First time I ever stepped on stage, when this was in the Albert Street Club, biggest laugh I got drunk. Like, I got hammered. Like, I drank 2 pitchers and then I went on. Yeah. But the thing was, I didn't realize it was a contest. You know how now you have to watch the show, and then you call back and then they put you on, right? Back then, because, well, anytime there's a contest, they just take a call and you just go on the show. I didn't know it was a contest, so I did it. And there was like 12 acts, and I found out I didn't even make the top 10. And I remember the biggest laugh I got was when I told the lady in the front row, I called her a fucking bitch. I did. She booed one of my jokes, and I got upset. I'm like, it's my first time on stage, you fucking bitch, and that got a laugh. And believe it or not, in that 1 second, I was like, I really like that. I hated the rest of my shit, but I liked that 1 second there. So George, the manager, came up and he said, come back after the competition's done. I'm like, oh, that's how I found out it was a competition. And then he said, come back after, and he says, nobody gets it their first time. And it was actually his encouragement, because I thought that was it. I thought I was done, I was going to walk away. And it was his encouragement that made me come back. My second show, I did 1:30, but it was good. Howard actually complimented me because I did my 1:30 and got off stage. I didn't stand there for 5 minutes going, what do I tell you now? What's going on? Like, I just did what I remembered and said, all right, you guys are fun, good night, and left. And everybody's like, what the? It was the 3rd time that I worked the show that I was addicted. Rick Curry was the MC. You guys should know Rick, he's an Ottawa guy. He's one of the best, and especially as an MC, he's dynamite, like unreal. And he MC'd it in the best set of my life. To this day, I still hold that one as the best set of my life because that was when I got hooked. Done. I wanted to do this forever. Because it was just one of those, when you see what it could be, that's when you want to hold on to it all the time. And a lot of comedians right now, this really annoys me, a lot of comedians walking around right now saying there's no place for people to get into comedy, it's all been done. It's bullshit. There's a lot of room for comedians. Everybody on the planet can be a comedian. What you want to do is you want to be a gem. You want to shine brighter than all the other comedians. Just be the brightest piece of shit in the bucket. Seriously.
I have a question.
Wait, I just need a quote. You could be the brightest piece of
shit in the bucket.
Thanks. That's going up on a website somewhere.
They do it, yeah. Right.
Put the signature on a message board.
Could you mention about like new people's mimicking other comedians' style?
Dennis Miller, completely, in every way. This dryness, the sarcasm, the funny. And because he came across so much like Dennis Miller, people never took him seriously, which is too bad because he was like that off stage too. It wasn't a character. So if you're going up on stage doing a character, then know the character because it's not always going to work, and then you're stuck in it for like a half hour. And that sucks.
That's why it's easier to just be yourself.
There's sometimes, you ever watch a performer and you're actually embarrassed for them? Those are the character hours. Like when it's sucking, it's like, oh, I can't watch this anymore. But you do because it's just funny.
When does your nervousness actually go? To take years or a year?
Sorry?
Yeah, nervous.
You know what? It took me 10 years to not give a shit anymore. Honestly, once for some reason after my 10th year, I was like, I know I'm funny. If it doesn't work all the time, so be it. Like, and once you get to that point, when you get that in your head, it might not take you guys 10 years. Hopefully it doesn't, because when you get to that point, you're almost bulletproof. Seriously, it's like you don't give a shit. Like, you still know what's right and wrong. You know when you're bombing, but it's a thicker skin. You know what I mean? I still get nervous now. I like to pace before a show, and there's never a bad thing to be nervous, because it shows that you care. You still want this, you know, and you're doing it for the reasons you want to do it. When the people, like, it drives me nuts. You see some people that can just sit there and then, oh, you're on, okay, cool, and then they go up and do it, and you're like, oh, fuck. It doesn't seem fair, because you're walking around going, oh, fuck, I can't remember my act, this is going to be stupid, this crowd's lame, you know, all that goes through your head. But it's only in your head. Remember, the minute you step on this stage, whatever you have that's going on in your life, bullshit job or upset with your family or anything, just as soon as you step on that stage, they don't care. They want to see you be funny, and that's what you got to do. And sometimes it does mean being a clown, because your heart's not into it, but the only way you can do it is to be a clown. 3 years, I think, is a good point. But you still get nervous. And there's some shows that mean more than others. You know, like a Just for Laughs showcase, or if you're doing like a TV spot or something, you're going to get your heart going quite a bit for those. But yeah, I think, and some people, it's weird. Like, anybody here like not get nervous at all, and you've been doing it under a year? Good. Keep that. Stay with it. Like, just keep that passion, because that's what it is. It's not nervousness, it's passion. And if you're shaking on stage, then have a beer or something. Like, just relax. It's never as bad as you think it is, you know?
How do you practice your delivery?
I really can't hear you.
How do you perfect your delivery?
My delivery? I like people to think that I'm having fun. You know what I mean? And like, big smile on my face, and like, I'm talking about, like, you know, things that you shouldn't be having a big smile on your face sometimes. But I'm having fun, because I really feed off the energy of crowds. Like, if a crowd is really flat, I end up being flat, and it gets really shitty, because like you want to build your own space. You know what I mean? Create your own space, create your own stage. That's the ultimate goal, and have everybody like almost captivated. That's what I like, but I mean, like, it doesn't always happen.
Sorry, Wafik, have you ever gotten to the point where either you forget your routine, or you're just having an off night and you lose track of time? Do you sometimes go off your script?
Oh yeah, I encourage it.
Okay.
That's the best time. That's when you start creating.
Okay.
Like, if you go up with an idea sometimes, like, write a few things, but give your brain, like, don't ever fully write out a joke. This is one thing that Tom Stade taught me. What you do is you write it out in point form. The minute you start writing it out full, your brain stays with that, because that's the way you wrote it out. And then to add something to it would take a full rewrite, and that's where your brain starts creating, like, manufactured rather than spontaneous. So don't ever write it out, and let yourself, when you're on stage, feel the rhythm of the crowd. You know, if you can throw something in that just feels right, you probably get a laugh for that, and then you end up with a tag. Always listen to comedians too. I think some comedians give you good tags, and some guys will give you a tag based on their voice. So listen to what they're giving you.
So what's the tag? What's the tag?
If you have a joke and somebody gives you like something you can say after.
Oh.
Somebody will come up to you after and say, you know, when you do that joke, like, you can say, yeah, you can say this at the end, and be like, and sometimes you'll be like, wow, actually that might work, and then you try it, and it does or doesn't. If it doesn't, sometimes it's because their voice doesn't fit your style, and that's the only reason. But always, yeah, I like tagging people's jokes based on their style, just because I get in their headspace and see where they're going with it. But I've gotten so many tags from people like, I'm not a dirty act, and then when you start working with like BJ Woodbury, holy fuck. He's one of the dirty acts. So anything you say, you know what you should end that with? Your mother's cunt. And to him it's hysterical. And his crowd would find it hysterical. But I'm not trying to be in his crowd.
Walk, right? Like when you're building like a bit that you know it's gonna be a little longer, like 4 or 5 minutes, would you say to do that like on 6-minute sets and have it basically be the whole 6, or wait till you have longer sets and work on it that way?
You mean new stuff?
Yeah, like let's say you have a new joke you think is gonna be around 4 or 5 minutes.
It depends. Like if you're doing a pro show, they paid $20 to see you. They don't want your new shit because it might work. They want to hear your shit that does work. And that's one thing, even the pros are guilty of this. But some of the pros in this town, they'll go up and do some, they're not here for a glorified amateur night. They want to see that Wednesday night. If you guys are, if you're getting a paid spot, or Howie gives you a spot Thursday, Friday, Saturday, that's sort of like, not to sound like melodramatic, that's sort of like an honor spot. Like he's giving you something that you should go up with honor. And ruin the show by doing your good shit, man. You have an opportunity to do all your A stuff and just own it and have people praise you. That's what you want to do. You go up and do new stuff that might work. Sure, if it does work, you'll feel good, but if it doesn't, how he's going to tell you? And it might hurt you in the beginning, especially in the beginning, because you don't want to be fucking around. Like I was doing like my A shit, like just doing it all the time for like the first 2 years and you get sick of it too, because you're doing it over and over, you know? And then you use the amateur night to get the new stuff. And if the new stuff starts working, you know, rule of 3, then put it on a Thursday or Friday. And if they're giving you, like if you're doing like a middle spot, you got like half an hour, and you want to fuck around with 5 new minutes, do it. But put it in the middle, make sure you got it buffered between good shit, and then that way you start strong and end strong.
Wafik, it's Rachel over here.
Hey, Rachel.
Hey, I was just wondering about like learning curves and doing it part-time versus full-time. Is there like somebody that does it all the time but if you take a break but then you come back and do your material that you kind of
Russell Peters took a break. Anybody that ever asked me if taking a break works, Russell Peters took a break for a year and then came back, and look at him now.
Okay.
So it does work. Personally, I lose my rhythm and feel rusty if I'm not on stage at least once a week, especially now. Like, but back in the day, I mean, like, you guys have it easy. You have 2 different comedy clubs you can play. Like, you got this room and you got Absolute. I shouldn't have said that in here.
I think Howard's here somewhere.
Yeah, you got the 2 rooms you can play. And then there's a couple of good open mics that pop up every now and then. I wish there was one that was consistent, because I think that'd be great. And there's a lot of good talent. There should be a couple running like on a Tuesday or Monday that should run consistently. But get on stage as much as you can. I think that really helps with the learning curve, for sure. And have people that you like, that seem to understand your style of comedy, have them bounce stuff off you, and, you know, write together. And, you know, like Don Kelly and I, and Bill McIntosh back in the day, we used to go to Nate's every Sunday and get like smoked meat sandwiches and write for 3 hours. And it was great. And it's rough because sometimes you're sitting there and you want to write and you want to impress your buddies at the same time, and you're coming up with gold, and you're like, yeah, I wrote a fart joke. And you feel like an idiot. So, so make sure you're writing with people that you like, and keep writing. Like, just do that, but make sure that you're that consistency. If you want to get on stage a lot, get to the 6 minutes that you can showcase and do for this room or the other rooms, and you'll get the weekends. And you guys get, like, how many shows does the other club play now?
7.
7 nights.
Every night.
Yep.
And then there's 2 on Friday and Saturday.
Rick Curry's there this week, by the way, Walk.
Oh, he is? Yeah. Oh, I gotta go see that. He's so, I like to describe him as like goofy funny. He really is. Like, if you just, like, in some cases, I know there's a lot of purists out there, oh, that's not a great writing joke. He's kind of like, turn your brain off and just laugh your fucking ass off, because he's so funny. Like, He's great. There's a lot of good guys from here, though, I would think. You guys like Don Kelly, yeah? He's the man.
Wafik, do you ever, well, you talked about like doing stuff, like you, consistency, right? If you find you're kind of doing the same jokes and you get sick of doing the jokes? Like, do you get sick of doing the jokes? Like earlier on though, like when you first starting, did you get sick and then up doing the jokes?
That's where selling comes in. That's sort of like acting. Like, sort of like, I like this joke a lot, and then do it. Like you.
Well, I mean, Don Kelly did the same routine for 6 years. It was always a certain, within that 8 minutes or whatever, or however long he was on, it was always the same 12 jokes. It was just in different orders, right? And by selling it, he, I guess, made everyone laugh. But I mean, at some point, you got to get, you know, bogged down with like, why are these fucking people laughing? I've told this joke 1,000 times, but obviously they haven't heard it.
That's all in your own head.
Right?
Yeah. First time they've heard it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you never know. Like, yeah, sometimes you do it a Wednesday night and somebody might have been here a couple of months ago, and they might be like, oh, I heard most of that already. But first thing is, like, they don't mind hearing a joke more than once. I mean, a good joke is worth telling, like, a few times, and worth listening to a few times. And especially, like, if you tag it and you work on it and expand it, like, then you'll have more enthusiasm for it. But, yeah, I think it's mostly in your own head. Because, like, especially, like, there'll be times you'll be waking up in, like, Cornwall or Newfoundland. Be yourself. Like, just listen to yourself and go at your own pace. It's the only way it works. Like, it's going to drive you nuts seeing some people start after you and you know, move forward faster, but it happens.
What about heckling? Have you had to deal with it a lot? It's Skip.
I've actually been kind of fortunate that I haven't had to deal with it too much.
Go fuck yourself!
But I mean, yeah, usually something like that'll happen. And then
I've been following you.
And all is good because you get to leave. Sometimes you guys got to remember though. Sometimes it's not heckling. Sometimes they're tagging. Sometimes they'll say something off the top of their head that's funny to them that you just said. That if you listen to it, you might be like, holy fuck, you know what? I'm going to try that next time I talk. That has happened. And then, yeah, obviously if somebody says, oh, go fuck yourself, listen to what you just said, because you might deserve it. I mean, if he's just being an asshole, lay into him. I mean, the crowd will always be on your side if they know that he's the asshole. And the worst thing that ever happens, and this happens sometimes, you'll see somebody heckle, and the crowd's not with the comedian when he's dissing the guy. Or they go one step too far and then the crowd turns on the comedian. Like, you're only allowed a certain amount. So just like, feel the situation and go with it, but like, also read the crowd. Because they might not think he's as big an asshole as you do. And then you risk losing them if you do like, torch them and you're like, oh fuck, that was uncalled for. Now, for the next 5 minutes, anything you say is gonna get like, sort of alienated. So just be careful. It's the trickiest part of comedy is dealing with hecklers. But if you're funny and you keep a good rhythm, I find that they just can't get in there.
I'm asking about I'm sorry, the red light. It's my first time going on tonight, and I'm like, work real hard on getting the timing right, and just like a solid 6 minutes or whatever. But like if I see that light and it's like a little too early or a little too late for me, do I just sort of close up and walk off, or do I just try to finish it?
If you can, the light's usually given to you for like a minute or a couple of, like a good 35, 40 seconds before. So try to finish whatever topic you're on without going over. Like, I mean, if you go 5 seconds over, that's okay. It's the minute you start going like a minute over or 30 seconds, you're cutting into somebody else's time. I usually like to see the light, and then hopefully I'm far enough into a joke that I can just, even if it's like 3 seconds after the light, I get my punch. Like, if you get a laugh, then just end it. Like, there's no reason to go further. And you don't want to upset management. And that's the big thing, actually. Believe it or not, the biggest thing once you start doing comedy is time. Like, there's a lot of places that are really fucking sticky on it. Like, when you go to a casino, if they tell you you do 20 minutes, You do 19 to 20. You don't do 20 to 21. If you ever want to play that place again, because that 1 minute could cost them $1 million. It's a casino. So, and there's other situations where you're going to be like in a room where somebody might not show up and they're like, hey, can you do 7 minutes instead, or 7 extra minutes, you know, and like now you're doing extra time. Just be ready for those things. That made no sense.
It's a waste of time.
But yeah, it's timing. It's some people like TV. They say 3 minutes, not 3:02. 3, and that's what you got to do. And you got to be ready for those situations because some people are really going to be tight about it. And it is grounds for some people. Like they'll have it part of the contract. If you don't do the time they say specifically, then it affects how much you get paid. They would still pay you, but I mean, you might get paid half, or you know, you might not play that club again. So timing, like, yeah, listen to what they say. Even though a lot of guys might go over, there's a difference between just doing a Saturday night in a club and doing a show that you got to stick to your time.
How do you speak normally on stage, or do you sort of have like? I kind of feel like I'm kind of nervous, right? I'm going to go on stage and be full of energy. It's going to be sort of a little extra loud, a little extra fast. And I'm trying to dial it down.
Yeah, no, like an extension of your own personality is not a problem, especially because when you're, like your heart's racing and you're trying to remember everything. Yeah, you might just talk faster than you normally do, but yeah, the idea is to be as normal as possible. And then you get into characters though that might have squeaky voices or something, and they got to stay with that for the whole time they're up there. So yeah, like I don't know, like. Just take a couple of deep breaths and try to talk to people before you get on stage and get that sort of, this is how I'm going to try to talk on stage. Like, I like talking to people before the show. It's like, if I'm on stage, like, I just sort of talk to people just to get this, and then I'm like, okay, go up on stage and talk at this level. Like, try to be at this pace, because you don't want to be, hey, how you guys doing? Hey, well, and just race through it all. Because then, your 7 minutes of material comes out in 3, and then, you know, especially when you're getting paid, you don't want to. Fuck yeah. My first split, oh, Howie's here. I should remind him of this story. First split medal I was doing, 15 minutes I was supposed to be doing on the road. And Howie had a show, we were going out west. It was Bill McIntosh and myself doing 15 minutes each. And Howie decided, I'm going to hire these guys to do a split middle in Ottawa before they left. The Thursday night, my 15-minute set came out in 7. Howie wasn't very impressed because I was about to leave for a tour that he put his name and everything on. He thought that's all I had. And it was.
You did Rita Rudner and talk real slow.
I got up to about 12 minutes by the time the tour started. And the nice thing was, when we went on the tour then, we did like 28 shows in 32 days. Wow. Like there was a lot of clubs that doubled up, and we ended up doing 2 shows. And so it ended up, yeah, oh my God. And I came back with like 20 minutes. That was sort of what I took out there, but better when I came back. And that's what you end up doing. And that's why you guys want to hit as many open mics. We got to get some open mics going in town. Honestly, like if you guys want to do it, I'll even put my name on it. We'll do it together. But I think we should do it because that is the best way to keep going and making it fun. And that's where you can write. Nobody cares. If you want to go on an open mic and you want to do 10 new minutes, you can do that there. When you're doing the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, always do the best because that's what you're getting paid for. That's what got you there.
What do you think of the open mics that currently exist in Ottawa at bars and the Royal Oak and whatnot? They're mostly for musicians, but they will take in a comedian. Do you think that's a good experience? Or
I don't like that because music crowds tend to follow music, comedy crowds tend to follow comedy. And when you try to mix the two, for some reason, it just doesn't work. And that's why I've always been a fan of like an actual open mic kind of stuff, but it's all stand-up. Nobody, like if you even bring a guitar, you should be doing like comedy. It shouldn't all be like music. It bothers me because it just doesn't mesh. It doesn't work, and it never has.
I'm glad you said that because I did 2 recently. Did the Lafayette and the Royal Oak, and I got almost completely ignored. Everybody was like immersed in
Well, I
conversation.
can't believe you tried to laugh, man.
I know.
You got bigger balls than me. That's,
They did make some reference to the girth of my balls, but yeah, it was quite horrific, and yeah, I didn't feel good coming out of that. But then I just figured, you know what, it's not me. It's because people.
you know
just
what?
didn't have
Dave
interest.
Chappelle started doing it in subways. Like he would do it.
I was-
He would put a little box up because he was too young to do it in the club.
I was just gonna say that there's
Do
a
it to the crowd as they walk by.
Oh, yeah?
there's a guy that does well, I don't think he's mentally well, but he does his own stand-up show in the Minto Park across the street on like Tuesdays at like 1 o'clock in the
That's my
afternoon.
dad.
Is it your dad? Okay. I don't know, just some random guy, and he puts out a box and puts a hat on top of it and just tells jokes. And I mean, none of them are funny. They're all they're not bad, but they're knock jokes or whatever. So I guess my question is, would that be something that you would someone who's starting out, would that be okay? Like just do, you know, an off the cuff open mic night with yourself, or like on the bus, or
You know what? If you got the balls to do it,
Yeah.
sure. Why not? Like, stand up on Elgin Street and just do it right. Like, stand in the window. There's a little ledge. Stand right there. It doesn't matter where
Yeah.
you want to do it.
Yeah.
It's why.
Guerrilla
You
improv.
really want to get your ass kicked. That's the way to do it. I like. I'd say Chris Timms had a couple of awesome little rooms running. He was doing one on West End.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then he did the other one at Biagio was another one.
Grace O'Malley's.
Yeah, Grace O'Malley's. That was one of the better ones. And Josh Williams had Whispers, which I still think should still be open and doing it, because that room was awesome. Like, it's just weird. Like, you get the room going, and then it just seems like you got to give it a chance, and you got to get that. Make sure if you do talk to somebody, make sure that they understand it might not always have a crowd. Like tonight, if you had an open mic, you probably wouldn't have like a comedy crowd. It'd be much more for the hockey game. You know what I mean? So get the open mics. Get as many as you can. If you, like Toronto, the best thing about Toronto is that you can do 30 shows in a week because there are so many open mics all over town. And that's why they grow so quickly. And if you guys, like, there's no reason to leave Ottawa. Like, if you want to, Toronto's probably the best place to go, but there's really no reason to leave it. You just have to get more open mics and more stage, because stage time is what builds your set and what builds you as a comedian and what helps you grow and move forward. Because the more time on stage, the more you realize how to react and deal with an audience and put yourself in situations that you might not normally have to face if you're doing a Wednesday night. Because Wednesday, I mean, you're going to get a comedy crowd. They're not going to be here to heckle. It's very rare that anybody ever does. So it's kind of like a cushy position to be in. When you go and do an open mic, like you guys, like you said, the laugh kicked the shit out of you, right? So I mean, like, you don't want to be putting yourself in that place necessarily, but you know, something that where you might have to deal with something that you normally don't have to deal with in a comedy club.
And do you find that makes you a stronger stage presence if you have to deal with other people like that, or other people that
consider, like, I've never been on stage at Absolute, so I don't know what it's like to see if you see the crowd or not. But here, you have to admit, like, there's like this just black curtain right here, and basically all the people you see are right there. So you don't